Hi everyone, it's Terry here sharing another process video for Peartree Cutfiles, and today I'm using the Walk in the Woods cut file from the August release, and this is perfect for documenting those little trips out during the summer. So I've cut the Walk in the Woods out in two different ways. So I've cut kind of the background words out of craft cardstock and then the letters from the patterned paper. So what I did is in Silhouette Studio Design is I released the compound path so that I could move the letters off the like outline, and that's how I got the two different designs. You could easily just cut it twice, once from the craft and once from the patterned paper, and you'd have the same kind of outline to be able to use. You just have more of the cut out on the craft cardstock. So I'm going to use these two smaller photos that I've printed out, landscape, that are from a pre-wedding photo shoot that we had a few weeks ago in a local woodland area to us, and I'm just adding those letters now on top of the craft cardstock using foam pads, just so that it gives them a bit of dimension. You'll see that I've used the same patterned paper for the background as I have for those letters as well, so it kind of ties it all in together. And once I've done that, now I'm looking at where I want to position that roughly. And I do play around with this little manufacturer's strip, but I don't actually end up using it. So I'm going to back both the photos just simply on some vellum that I've got. I really like using vellum on my layouts. It just gives a nice subtle finish, just creates a matte and just kind of a frosted feel without adding more pattern or colour to the page. So I'm just sticking those photos onto the cut file so that I know roughly how big the area is going to be, because you'll see that shortly that I'm going to add some that kind of mixed media to the background, and it just helps me if everything's attached to be able to judge how big an area I need to cover. So I'm just going to add a doodled line around the white cardstock that I've added. And then I've pulled out 4 different colours of distress ink and then a new stamp set that I've got from Heidi Swap. So I've got Forest Moss, Peeled Paint, Shabby Shutters and Mowed Lawn distress inks. So I'm just using them to stamp some of the outdoor themed stamps in the background, and I stamp a few and then go back with the cut file to make sure I like how it's sitting. So with the trees, I did kind of second and third stamping as well with it, and I didn't just have the darker colours. I like to add more stamping around it, and it just gives it a bit more texture. So once I'm happy with it, I just spritz it with some water, and it kind of makes it, the inks bleed a little bit, so you get a bit more colour and a bit more of a blurred effect, so that they're not quite as sharp, crisp images, because I don't want them to be like super vibrant in the background. I want them to kind of just sink back a little bit. So I've set that to one side to dry, and I'm just adding some adhesive to my cut file, ready for when it's dry. But before I do that, I decided I want to add a bit more colour to that background, so I'm just adding some ink to a piece of packaging and just rubbing it over that area. It's still a bit damp, so it does smudge a little bit. It's really subtle, so you can't really tell much on the video. And then I'm just adding some gold splattering all over the background. So I'm going to pop that to one side to dry, and then we can get on with the rest of the layout. So now it's dry, I'm just going to add my cut file on top, and it's literally going to sit straight on top, and the cut file is going to be flush to the background, just with the tops of the photos lifted up on foam pads. You can see I've also added the This Life title. I've got this piece of ephemera that's from one of the One Canoe 2 collections, and it's just a kind of a bit of a journaling card, so I decided I want to add that. And I do end up covering quite a lot of the Stampin' Up, but I'm happy with that. You know, I know it's there, it's given me a base for the layout. And I'm just going to use this little tag that's got a metallic camera on it as well. So I'm just trying to work out where I want to put it, and I decide to do similar to what I've done with the photos, and I'm just going to mat it on a small piece of vellum. So I want to add a little bit of subtle colour now into this layout, and I've got these ephemera pieces again from One Canoe 2. They've got like a dusky pink to them, so I'm just tucking them in and around that cut file. I've got a couple of Bramble Fox perspective butterflies that I'm going to add, one in a light pink and then one that's more of a coral colour, just to add a bit of a pop of colour. And I feel like that in the words in the middle, it's just kind of falling into the background a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just going over it in some black pen and then colouring in the kind of script words. So I do speed this up shortly because it took me a little while, and you'll see how it comes together, and then it makes those two words really pop off the page. It also ties in that doodle border a little bit. Now there's a bit more black on the page, and I add just a little doodled border to that tag as well, because it was kind of getting lost with it being a similar colour to the background. So I pulled out these cork Peartree pieces. There's some little hearts with like an outline, so again figured that, pulled in that all those outlines and just dotted them around here and there on the page. To finish off, I'm just adding some Nouveau drops in black. I felt like there was a lot of green and browns to this page, so I just wanted to pull in another neutral, but in a bit more of a bold contrast colour. So that's my layout finished. Thank you for joining me on YouTube today. Don't forget to check out the description below where you can find all the links to the Peartree Cutfiles social media for more inspiration.